What is good, YouTube? And today we have another tier list for Etheria Restart. Now, in this tier list, we're going to be talking about SR and R characters, basically free-to-play characters that everyone will have access to eventually, and how they rank in terms of build priority. There may be some things that you don't agree with, but I think for the most part it's going to be pretty accurate. I think the biggest one people are looking at right away is going to be Diting's placement, but don't worry, I'll talk about him. Now, basically, we're ranking them in terms of what you want to build in a priority list, basically. And there's going to be 5 different tiers. We have the must build tier. You want to build these ASAP. These characters are going to be used in a lot of areas of content. One of them, not as much, but still a very powerful unit to build because you're going to need her, spoiler alert, to start farming your gear. And then we have the strong tier. These characters are going to be good as well to build, just less of a priority. Diting's here as well. We'll talk about him. He might be higher up on the list depending on your account build, but I think in general he's going to be in strong. Placeholders tier, these characters are going to be just inferior versions for the most part of SSRs, and they're still very good. I said inferior, but I think that's a bad word. They're just replacements, right? Placeholders, for example. And these characters are going to be good to build, but don't invest too much in them because once you get their upgrade, for example, Gray gets replaced by Kloss, Sybil gets replaced by Rosa, Giada, and even Yelly, then you're going to stop using them for pretty much the entirety of the rest of your account. Next, we have the niche tier. These characters, even though they're in the 4th tier, they're not 4th in ranking. Some of these characters in their own niche can be must builds if you want to plan to use them for certain areas. For example, for one-shot comps, if you don't have Beyontin, Yang is going to be one of the best characters to build because he buffs your attack and crit rate, and also he's a menace in PvP. So for that reason, we have him in niche because he's only used in one-shot and also in PvP. But there's a lot of characters like that in this niche tier. They might not seem that great at first glance, but there's some areas that they are amazing. And even though it's very specific, we'll be talking about it, and that's why they're in the niche tier. And then we have the not worth it tier. These characters are just not good. They need to be buffed, in my opinion, in some way or form because they're just not really used anywhere. So let's start off with the must build tier. So at the top here, we have Cachi the Guard. Now you're probably surprised he's at the #1 spot. You might have expected something like a Vice or even like a Diting, but Cachi the Guard is, in my opinion, the best PvE unit for SR and R characters. The reason is because he has immunity, which is great. He also has a defense buff, which is also great. And if you're thinking, oh, immunity, doesn't Ling Luo, provide immunity as well? Doesn't Sania cleanse? The thing is, his immunity is 2 turns, and if you pair him with Ling Luo, you can extend it to 3 turns, and then Ling Luo can S3 on top and make a 4-turn immunity duration, and then Cachi's S3 will be up again, so you have permanent immunity that way. That's why he's so good. He also has a very good speed down attack on his S2, which is insane, and he also has a turn meter pushback, which is going to be very good on bosses. You can literally bring him into every single Inferno. Thresholds for Aurora, you can use him there. There's some Inferno teams that actually use him. He might not be the best, but he's still used. You can use him in Doki Doki. Also not going to be the best choice for some team comps, but he's still viable. Also very, very good in Terramaton. Probably one of the best supports for Terramaton. One of the best supports for Nico Nana. Required for Sharon Inferno. Extremely good for Shadow Flame Hoyan, and also extremely good for Rengokutsu. So the best part about him is that you can build him up, invest into him, and you can bring him everywhere. You don't have to worry about, oh, is he not going to be good here? You can literally just slot him into every team, and he's going to be at least good. And most times, extremely powerful. That's why I think he's a must build, super strong. You only really need to max his S3, but eventually, if you do plan to use him everywhere, maxing him out into his S2, and potentially his S1 for speed is going to be good. Like I mentioned, just the best universal SR character in the list. Next, we have Vice. So Vice isn't going to be as used everywhere as Cachi the Guard, although you can use him in a lot of areas. You can use him in a lot of the shell contents, mostly for Nico Nana and Rengokutsu. You can also use him for early stages of Doki Doki farming, and even something like a Terramaton for early stages. But outside of that, not really good for farming shells and modules. But he is the best boss cheeser in the game. He locks down characters, or bosses rather, with his S1, and they don't use their ultimate for the most part. So very strong, used in a lot of hard boss fights because he disables the boss's mechanics, which puts him in the must build tier. There's some bosses in the game you literally cannot beat without him, and yeah, he's just that good. Next, we have Valerian. She's a must build because she's going to be very good in Terramaton, very good in Doki Doki, and also very good in Aurora. She has a cheat death, she has shields every turn, she has attack buff, She has invincibility, just one of the best supports in the game. You can also use her in pretty much every single shell farming area as well. Similar to Cachi the Guard, she is pretty much used almost everywhere, which honestly should put her up here to be honest, but yeah, just very, very good support. You can pretty much slaughter everywhere. All you need to do is max her S3. Next we have Viper. So Viper is also going to be a must build. He makes the gear requirements for Aurora go from extremely high to manageable. And he's also going to be very good in Nico Nana, also very good in Rengokutsu, and also extremely good for PvP. So for that reason, he is in the must build. Kazuyo the Reverie, very powerful PvP unit, but also more importantly, required for Doki Doki Inferno. You pretty much need her to make your teams work. I don't think there's more than like a couple teams out there that don't use Kazuyo the Reverie, but I'm gonna be honest, I think she is just like the best CC unit, bar none, for Doki Doki. I don't really understand why people don't like to use her, but she's just that good. Also, she's good for Shadow Flame Hoyan, which is one of the hardest shell bosses out there, so you can use her there. And she's also good in a lot of hard Ember Trek and Anasing stages, where you just have her go fast and just pretty much S3 twice with Codex on the ads, and you just focus one down and you win that way. Very good character, definitely need to build her. Next, we have the strong characters. So we have Diting at the top here. You can argue for must build. It really depends on your account and what characters you pulled. Just because of the fact that he isn't going to be the best DPS for anything, but he will be very good if you're missing some key DPSs. For Aurora, I wouldn't even recommend using him there because you can use Rin, you can use Sybil, even if you're missing Rosa and Giada. And these are very good characters because they multi-hit, and you need to multi-hit on Aurora so you live longer and live easier. And Diting just ends up dying a lot unless you have him max duped, so he's not that great there. For Doki Doki, he's pretty unusable because you need AoE. For Teramaton, he's extremely good, but you don't actually need him for Teramaton either because you can use a character in the same tier, Fangus, and it lowers the gear requirements by a lot. Same thing for shells. You can use them in Nico Nana if you need a good DPS, but you can also use Sybil, you can use Rin, you can use Rosa, you can use Giada, you can even use Fangus, another SR character. For Sharon, he is pretty good, but you need to have Lily to make him work very well there. You can use him in Shadow Flame Hoyan, but you need a specific SSR to make that work. You need Celine, and even then, Fangus is just the better choice. The only area of content you might really need to build him for is going to be Rengokutsu. But even then, there's going to be other builds and teams you can do that don't require Diting. So I don't think he's a must build anymore, especially with Yelly being released and also different team comps being found out. So because of that, I think he's just in the strong tier. Next we have Obol. So Obol is an amazing character. This guy is a menace in PvP. I pre-ban him every game in RTA because he's that annoying. He is also going to be very good for a lot of AoE stages because he has an AoE stun and triple dot, which is insane. Very good in Shadow Flame Hoyan. You can bring him there with a dot team or with just Fangus, and you can clear and start farming that way. Just a very good unit to build. All you need is his S3 maxed for PvE. Next we have Fangus. So Fangus, I mentioned him when I was talking about Diting. This guy is amazing for Teramaton. He's amazing for Nico Nana, but Nico Nana is pretty easy now. He's also amazing for Shadow Flame Hoyan, and just as a dot character, he's pretty good. Not a must build though, because you can actually sub him out for different characters if you have him. But if you're looking for a very good free-to-play option for the areas of content I mentioned, Fangus is the easiest way to get started in those thresholds and shell farming areas such as Teramaton, because all of his damage is percent HP based. So all you need to do is make him fast and make your entire team tanky, and you'll win. Next we have Sania. So I really wanted to put her up in must build, but I think it's a little biased. She is very good in areas of content like Doki Doki. She's also pretty good in something like Rengokutsu, one of the best supports there. But that is pretty much it in terms of where she's required. Where she really shines is like very long fights, such as in Union Boss or even something like Phantom Theater, or even in Anasync Echoes and Ember Trek, because she can stack up her S3 buff, which gives you max health, which is going to be very good. But I don't think she's a must build early game, because one, she isn't taken into like every area of content, to be honest. You can use Linglo over her for a lot of it. And two, she requires max lattice investment to be good. That's why it's hard for me to put her in must build. All the characters in must build, you don't really need to lattice too much, which makes them a lot better. So I have Sania down here, but very decent in PvE and also extremely strong in PvP right now. Next we have placeholders. So I'm just going to talk about when you want to build them, pretty much when you're missing a key SSR. So Gray, you only really build him for Doki Doki if you're missing Kloss, which feels pretty bad, but that's pretty much how it is. Red Kazuyo is going to be a very good option if you're missing something like a Doki Doki or Lily. If you want to use her for the skill cooldown reduction for your Fushu, she's very good. She's also just very good as a Lily replacement in some areas of content like Nico Nana, and also Sharon if you want, because she has cooldown reduction and speed buff. But outside of that, you're not going to really use her too much. I think people also use her in Aurora and Termaton Inferno with good success, so she's a pretty decent character. Rin, mostly if you don't have Giada and Rosa for PvE, but also pretty decent in PvP right now if you have really good gear. Sybil, also replacement for Giada and Rosa for Aurora, and that's pretty much it. Chiaki is the red healer that is replacing Mia if you don't have her. If you are struggling in Termaton and Aurora, Chiaki is a very good healer to bring with Ling Luo into Aurora and with Valerian into Termaton, and it'll make your rounds lots more stable. Mizuki is going to basically be just a dispel character for Termaton if you're missing Holden. So if you're trying to run the free-to-play dot comp and you don't have Holden, you don't have, what's his name, Heinrich, then you could bring Mizuki and she can dispel for you. And she's also pretty good in PvP. But outside of that, for PvE, you're not going to really use her unless you are missing those dispellers. Chiaki the Echo, also pretty good Lily replacement because of her turn meter push. Just keep in mind, she stacks attack buff with Valerian, so you're going to be applying Ave Maria more. But very good as a turn pusher. Also has a Purify on her S1, which is very underrated for things like Doki Doki that has stuns. So I think if you're looking for a good turn meter pusher that can attack buff, Chiaki the Echo is very good. Next, we have the niche characters. I'll just talk about their niche very quickly. Yang, like I said, is in one-shot comps and also PvP. Dinah's also going to be for one-shot comps, especially for like Aurora and Termaton. RC77 is going to be strictly for PvP and for Doki Doki, but he is a monster in both, especially for one-shot comps for Doki Doki. Kraken is going to be for PvP and also for Doki Doki as well, and also for stages where you want to CC lock them. And if you're lacking, Lily, you can run Kazuyo the Reverie into Kraken right after, both on double codex, and you just lock down the enemies. Number 41, she's pretty much like Chiaki the Echo, but worse, so I put her down here. She has some healing, but it's not the best. Marvel is going to be used in Doki Doki one-shot for the first wave to push back. That's pretty much it for PvE nowadays. He used to be a lot better, but he got nerfed. Dorothy the Wisher, one-shot comps. Red Cachi, one-shot comps as well. Victor in like those bruiser comps. I've seen people do Inferno Rengo with him and also Termaton. Asu is going to be for dot comps if you are missing Shadow Sania, but still not nearly as good as her, right? And then we have the not worth it characters. These all need buffs. I don't know how, but they should definitely buff them. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this tier list though, guys. Let me know in the comments down below if you want some characters moved up or down. I will be doing this every few weeks, probably like every 2 or 3 months actually, just because the meta shifts and different team comps get discovered because the game is so new. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video.